This video is sponsored by Surfshark. Stay tuned for more info. Hey, did you guys know there's a brand new original Pixar movie in theaters right now?
Grubhub Perks give you deals on the food you love.
Well, I'd say now it's probably a safe bet you've all heard about Elio's existence, but that's after everyone's already given it attention due to how much of a colossal box office bomb it's turning out to be. It's entirely possible it could bounce back like Elemental did, but I wouldn't say its chances are very likely. People seem to be aware of Elio's existence now due to word of mouth regarding its non-existent marketing, but unlike Elemental, people are still choosing not to go see it. In all fairness, theaters are pretty stacked right now, and summer tends to be one of the more competitive parts of the year for cinema, but over the past few years we have seen Pixar struggle like never before to get people to go see their original movies. Now, there's a lot of reasons why, again, poor marketing, but then there's also the impact of, well, you know at this point, conditioning people to wait for their films to release on streaming, and a bunch of other reasons that I can elaborate on for you here. But there's one other major factor that I've been seeing a lot of people complain about recently. With Elio, but also extends to a good chunk of Pixar's recent projects. I'm of course talking about Pixar's change in art direction and their struggle to shake up their visuals in a post-Spider-Verse world. And it's a discussion that gives me major deja vu and war flashbacks to the time when people were fighting over the quote-unquote CalArt style, because many of the complaints I'm seeing directly mirror the ones from back then, and arguments on both sides seem to be exactly the same, which is incredibly interesting to me. Now, returning viewers may know I've made my stance on the whole CalArts debate very clear before, but the Pixar art style debate I think is a bit more nuanced, and while I don't exactly have an extreme position one way or the other on this, I'm not going to remain a filthy centrist about it either and offer my own takes. Now, I hope that doesn't upset anyone. I mean, if you really wanted someone to affirm your stance on this issue, I don't know why you're here. I mean, what do you want me to do, read tweets for 10 minutes? What's the deal with Pixar's change in art direction? Why is this new art style controversial? What arguments are there for and against it? And furthermore, what the f even is Elio? Because I guarantee like half of you watching this video haven't even seen the movie, and I have, so I guess I'll be talking about that as well. Man, I hate arguing about stuff. Like, just the other day someone tried telling me it's perfectly safe to connect to free public Wi-Fi without any precautions, so I had to tell him, no, you need a VPN. A Surfshark VPN. This video is sponsored by Surfshark VPN. Just take the In an age where the threat of your internet security is continuously put at risk, Surfshark, whether it's on Windows, Android, or Apple, allows you to become an anonymous and hard-to-track user with the click of a button, masking your IP and making sure that your city, country, and download history aren't linked to your identity, while also encrypting your online data if you were to connect to free public Wi-Fi, so hackers don't have a field day the next time you browse inappropriate websites in the corner of your local Burger King. Surfshark also lets you freely switch your location in over 3,200 servers in 100 countries, allowing you to view region-specific content on YouTube and streaming services alike. I regularly get annoyed with how boring UK Netflix is, and this has immediately fixed its biggest problem. Just refresh the page after swapping countries and wow! Better content! Simple as that. Thanks, Surfshark. And if you use the link in the description below and enter the special code CARTOON, you'll get an extra 4 months for completely, absolutely 100% free with a 30-day money-back guarantee. Thank you so much to Surfshark for the sponsor, and thank all of you for helping to support this channel. For a good while now, many people have been complaining about Pixar's art direction. Pixar have always been praised for how beautiful their movies look and how detailed their animation is, sometimes getting mind-blowingly close to looking downright real. And there is an inherent beauty to that, especially since the cinematography in most of their movies is pretty solid. But a complaint that started getting more common over the years was how samey their movies were beginning to look. And as technology got better and subsequently their movies started to look more and more real, some people started to get tired of the aesthetic. And most of this criticism would stem from the release of Into the Spider-Verse in 2018. And I don't think I need to go on yet another long rant about how this one movie shook the animation industry and got nearly every major animation studio to drop the semi-realistic Pixar look and go for something more cartoony, expressive, experimental, and distinct. Pixar began looking like they were behind the times, the growing sentiment being that the bar for good animation in a theatrical release doesn't have to mean looking super realistic. If anything, it came across like it defeated half the point in animating in the first place. There wasn't a ton of pressure on Pixar to change. After all, this is called the Pixar look for a reason by most people, as it's their visual identity, but there's nothing wrong with a little experimentation every now and then, especially because Pixar has a massive catalogue of short films that are known for playing before their movies that are far more experimental and distinct with their visuals. And going into the 2020s, it seemed as if Pixar was finally beginning to embrace being more creative with their animation and not forcing themselves to be super realistic, which brings us to 2021 with the release of their newest movie at the time, Luca. Visually speaking, Luca still had a semi-realistic look to its environments with plenty of detail, but the film's color palette was a lot more vibrant than other Pixar movies. But what really stood out were over to character designs, straying away from the semi-realistic look and being far more cartoony and less limited with their expressions. This was the birth of Pixar's current art style, and while it had its critics at the time, namely a lot of people pointing at the screen yelling, "Bean mouth, bean mouth, bean mouth, the West has fallen, billions must die," people considered this to be a good step in the right direction. Luca had a unique visual identity and stood out from anything Pixar had made previously, and it helped that the movie was mostly well received too. But then a year later, Pixar released Turning Red, which would turn out to be one of their most divisive releases. Mostly just people moral policing over a kids movie educating kids on puberty, because we're currently living in a social and political climate where kids movies just aren't allowed to be challenging at all. I mean, if Incredibles 1 released these days, people would lose their collective shit. A man tries to kill himself in that movie, but another thing that made the film controversial was its art direction. Turning Red was an evolution of Luca's art direction and prioritized being far less detailed, having its own unique visual aesthetic completely separated from the super detailed look Pixar's been known for, while keeping the same kind of character designs and having more, I don't know, anime influence, I guess. I'd say don't kill me, but I think my friends and family would understand. A lot of people loved this look and appreciated that Pixar was being more experimental, while others claimed it was too far in one direction with the movie not looking super detailed. It was also around this point that complaints about the character designs began popping up far more often, likely amplified by the film being grinded through the gears of the ongoing culture war due to its subject matter, with many people picking it apart. It was safe to say that the main complaint now was that whatever experiments Pixar was trying to do with the art direction were not as universally accepted or praised as the attempts of other studios. Hell, the negative reactions towards how Turning Red looked had some people begging them to go back to their old visual style. They did that with Lightyear, a film that was literally trying to emulate a live-action sci-fi movie that Andy canonically watched in this Toy Story universe apparently and inspired his love for Buzz Lightyear. And I gotta say, if this was the movie to rock Andy's world, then that kid had fucking awful taste. But anyway, the movie bombed hard. Then there was Elemental, another visual departure from the norm, but still received criticism due to the film's concept not feeling very original. Visually, it did look pretty good at times, but that was the general consensus. And now we're finally at this year's Pixar release, Elio. And this appears to be many people's breaking point with this new Pixar style, because they're back to the same character designs as Luca and Turning Red. Other than the character designs and the alien world half the film takes place on, it's back to semi-realistic backgrounds just with far simpler character designs juxtaposed on them. The consensus so far seems to be that a lot of people aren't liking the look of Pixar's new movies. I doubt it's the main driving force behind Elio's miserable box office performance, but the controversy can't be denied, and I don't think everyone is coming at this with bad faith. It's a shame that Elio is doing badly right now, because honestly, as someone who's actually seen the film, I genuinely don't think it's that bad. I actually liked it, and I was going in thinking it was gonna bore the shit out of me. And it did at first, but the film's decently funny, has some alright emotional beats, and has a genuinely great third act with moments that have the potential to be some of the best and the most hard-hitting moments in Pixar's history, but are let down by a by-the-numbers plot that doesn't do enough to earn these moments or make them feel truly impactful. Also, while I was writing this, it got revealed that a lot of the film's plot was cut, and now everything makes a lot more sense. Elio is fine, and I'd say it's a movie worth watching, though I can't really blame anyone for not choosing to go see it right now. Alright. Alright, I won't delay this much longer. The bean mouth complaint. This is just reheated CalArts style drama, but I do understand the complaint with Pixar specifically. A lot of people claim that this art style is inherently unappealing because all the characters look like lazily designed blobs and that it makes everything look ugly. I don't really agree that it looks ugly, nor do I think they're designed that way out of laziness, but I can understand people finding Pixar's rendition of this style to look slightly unappealing. It ultimately comes down to personal opinion, but I personally think this style doesn't really translate to 3D CG animation as well as it does for 2D traditional. There's a reason why this style is so common in Western animation these days. It's easier to animate, it looks appealing when done well, and it's a visual trend. Every era of animation has these visual trends. It makes sense why this would find its way to Pixar when it began experimenting. This style does let them cut loose with the animation and attempt being more dynamic and cartoony, but I think there's just something about these designs that work far better in 2D traditional animation. With CG animation, I can't deny that the characters do look kinda blob-like and weird, and I can see a lot of people turning their heads at something that looks like this. I made a few Grubhub jokes at the start of this video, mostly in jest, and I don't think they look nearly as bad as that, but you get the point. Do I think it looks bad? Not really. I think Luca, Turning Red, and Elio are all fine-looking films, but I can understand why people would think they look weird. It's the same kind of vibe as that one time Aardman tried translating their iconic stop-motion designs into a CG animated movie for DreamWorks. That being flushed away, it doesn't look terrible, but you do get the sense that these designs would work far better somewhere else, and there's no denying that seeing 3 of Pixar's most recent original films having the same sort of art style leads to it losing its luster. faster. If only Luca had this style, I think people would be way more nice towards it. In any case, I don't think Pixar is being lazy with these designs at all. Again, they are trying to experiment with their visuals instead of sticking to their hyper-realistic style, and I genuinely commend that. And it's not as if they were doing only hyper-realistic movies before Luca. The Incredibles and Incredibles 2 have an incredibly distinct art style, and even with the sequel being made with better technology and more detailed environments, it still has such a striking visual presentation with its lighting, character designs, and 60s aesthetic that I genuinely think it's the most gorgeous looking movie Pixar have ever made. But that's my point. It isn't that Pixar's new art direction is terrible and it should just go back to what they were doing previously. I want them to experiment more. I want them to do something more visually wild and out there, and I want them to give each new film its own look and feel. And if that's too much of an ask, then at the very least I'd like them to not rely on the same kind of visual style for multiple movies in a row. I also don't mind them revisiting their realistic style, especially with all the sequels they currently have in production. I just want more visual variety for their original movies. I don't doubt that their current style is unappealing to a lot of people, not the main driving force behind their low box office numbers as of recent, but definitely an impactful deciding factor that can make or break a film's performance, given they tend to release their movies during the summer and have a lot of competition to fight against. That's the thesis here. Pixar experimenting is a good thing. I just feel they need to push way harder. Anyway, that's the end of the video. I don't know how to end this otherwise. Play Yakuza or something.